The day I failed my university entrance exam felt like the end of the world. I can still picture the moment I opened the email, my heart pounding as I scanned the words, "We regret to inform you." My stomach dropped. All those months of cramming, the late nights, the endless practice tests, it all crumbled in an instant. I was 18, and the weight of failure pressed down on me like a physical force. But it wasn't just the rejection that stung. It was the whispers, the pitying glances, the subtle jabs that followed. "He's a failure," they said. Not always to my face, but loud enough for me to hear. Family members shook their heads, neighbors gossiped, and even some of my friends distanced themselves, as if my failure was contagious. "No college degree? Good luck getting anywhere in life," one uncle said with a smirk. Those words burned into my soul, each one a reminder that I wasn't good enough. I grew up in a small town where success was measured by academic achievement. Getting into a top university was the golden ticket, the only path to respect and a stable future. My parents had sacrificed so much for my education, working extra hours to pay for tutors and study materials. I was supposed to be their pride, the one who'd make it out and prove their efforts weren't in vain. Instead, I became the kid who let everyone down. For weeks, I barely left my room. I'd lie on my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake I'd made during the exam. The shame was suffocating, but beneath it, a quiet spark of defiance flickered. I wasn't ready to let this define me. One evening, while scrolling aimlessly on my old laptop, I stumbled across a YouTube video titled, "Learn to Code in 30 Days. The thumbnail showed a smiling guy in front of a computer, looking confident and in control. Everything I wasn't. I clicked out of curiosity, expecting nothing more than a distraction. But as I watched, something clicked. The idea of building something from nothing, of writing lines of code that could create websites, apps, or even games, felt like a lifeline. I had always been fascinated by computers, even if I'd never done more than play games or browse the internet. Maybe, just maybe, this could be my way out. I started small. The video recommended learning HTML and CSS, the building blocks of websites. I found a free course on a platform called Free Code Camp and dove in. At first, it was overwhelming. Tags, attributes, divs. It was like learning a new language. But every time I made a button change color or centered a piece of text on a web page, I felt a rush of accomplishment. It was the first time in months I'd felt capable of anything. My bedroom, once a prison of self-pity, became my learning hub. I'd sit at my rickety desk, my ancient laptop whirring like it was about to take off, and lose myself in code. The early days weren't easy. I'd spend hours debugging a single line, only to realize I'd missed a semicolon. I'd watch tutorials, pause, rewind, and try again, my frustration mounting with each failed attempt. There were moments I wanted to slam my laptop shut and give up. Who am I kidding? I'd think. I'm not smart enough for this. But then, I'd remember the voices calling me a failure, and I'd grit my teeth and keep going. I wasn't just learning to code. I was fighting to prove them wrong. After a few weeks, I built my first web page, a simple portfolio with my name, a photo, and a short bio. It wasn't much, but seeing it live on my browser felt like I'd climbed a mountain. I showed it to my younger sister, who was the only one in my family who didn't treat me like a lost cause. "That's actually pretty cool," she said, her eyes wide. Her words were like fuel, pushing me to keep learning. I moved on to JavaScript, which was a whole new beast. If HTML and CSS were like learning to write, plowed through tutorials, forums, and documentation like my life depended on it. I learned about APIs, databases, and version control. Each new concept was a puzzle, and solving it brought a sense of purpose I'd never known before. I started building more complex projects, a to-do list app, a weather dashboard, even a basic game. Each project was a milestone, a tangible proof that I was capable of more than anyone had given me credit for. But the real test came when I decided to apply for jobs. I knew I was at a disadvantage. No degree, no formal training, just a portfolio of self-taught projects. I spent weeks polishing my resume, writing cover letters, and applying to every junior developer position I could find. The rejections came fast. Not enough experience, they'd say, or bachelor's degree required. Each one felt like a punch to the gut, a reminder of the failure I was trying to escape. But I kept applying, driven by the same stubbornness that had gotten me through those sleepless nights of coding. One day, I got an email from a mid-sized tech company inviting me for an interview. My hands shook as I read it. The company was known for its innovative projects, and the idea of working there felt like a dream I didn't dare believe in. I prepared obsessively, practicing coding challenges, reviewing my projects, and rehearsing answers to common interview questions. The night before, I barely slept, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. The interview was a blur. There were 3 rounds, a technical test, a coding challenge, and a behavioral interview. I stumbled through some questions, my nerves getting the better of me, but I was honest. I told them about my journey, failing the entrance exam, teaching myself to code, building projects from scratch. I showed them my portfolio, walked them through my code, and explained how I'd solved problems along the way. When they asked why they should hire someone without a degree, I looked them in the eye and said, "Because I've already proven I can learn, adapt, and deliver. My projects show what I'm capable of, and I'm just getting started." 2 days later, I got the call. "We'd like to offer you the position," the recruiter said. I was so stunned I could barely respond. When I hung up, I sat on my bed, staring at my phone, waiting for the reality to sink in. I'd done it. I was going to be a software engineer. Starting the job was like stepping into a new world. The office was sleek, with open desks and monitors everywhere. My team was welcoming, but I felt like an imposter at first, surrounded by people with degrees from prestigious universities. I kept waiting for someone to call me out, to say I didn't belong. But instead, they valued my work. My first project was a small feature for a web app, and when it went live without a hitch, my manager clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Nice work." It was a small moment, but it meant everything. Looking back, I realized that failing the university exam wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It forced me to find my own path, to discover a passion I might never have explored otherwise. The people who called me a failure don't talk about me that way anymore. Some of them even ask me for advice now, wanting to know how I made it. I just smile and tell them it wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could rise above. Now, as I sit at my desk, writing code that powers applications used by thousands, I feel a quiet pride. The kid who was labeled a failure is building the future, one line of code at a time. And I'm nowhere near done.